welcome to Daily Dose Radio, a 5-minute devotional podcast studying the Psalms verse by verse. Broadcast from the ever-beautiful Sharonville, Ohio, on the sunny side of Cincinnati. Hey there, friends. Welcome back to Daily Dose Radio here in the Bible Bistro. Today we're looking at verses 9 and 10 in Psalm 139. This is the first part of Psalm 139. We're going to do it in two parts. Today we're looking at the second half of God's presence. There have been two themes so far in this psalm. Number one is God's knowledge, and we have that described for us in verses 1 through 6. Yesterday we looked at God's presence. Whither shall I go from thy spirit? Whither shall I flee from thy presence? And that sets the stage for today. As we look at 9 and 10, he's still asking the if question. He asks it in 8. Well, in 7, he says, where am I going to go? In 8, he begins to supply some answers. If I go to heaven, if I go to hell. All right, today, in verse 9, we're going to continue the if answers, the supplying possibilities. So let me read for you verses 9 and 10. If you have your Bible, follow along with me. If you don't, I'm pleased to read for you today. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there thy hand shall lead me, and thy right hand shall hold me. That's beautiful, isn't it? If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea. He's saying if I can fly away and just go wherever I want, and I go to the furthest, most remotest part of the sea. And friends, there are some remote parts to the sea. You know how much, landmass is covered by the oceans. It's like 70% of the whole global size is all ocean. Imagine if you went to the most remote section of ocean. Even there, your hand shall lead me. This is exactly what Jonah thought he could do. Jonah asked the same question. Where am I going to go? Because I want to get away from your presence. Shall I go to heaven? Shall I go to hell? Wait a minute. What about going to Tarshish? That's the remotest parts of the sea. That's all the way at the end of the Mediterranean Sea. That's all the way down there in Spain. Maybe if I go that far away, if I take the wings of the wind and fly all the way down there, God's hand won't be able to get me. He won't be able to see me. He won't know where I am. I'll run away from God. That was what Jonah thought he was going to do. But of course we know what happened, don't we? Jonah had a rude awakening. It wasn't rude for God, it was rude for Jonah. And surely it was an awakening. He went down to the hold of the ship and he went to sleep. And as soon as the storm started, the shipmaster came and said, "Wake up, O sleeper, and call upon your God." Yeah, so suddenly Jonah goes from thinking he's a hotshot and he's running away from God to, nope, haven't done it yet. And then he confesses to the men on board the ship. He said, this is all because of me. Notice what it says here in verse 10. Even there thy hand shall lead me, and thy right hand shall hold me. What happened to Jonah? God led him into the fish. God held him while he was there. God brought him back to land and set him back on his course to Nineveh. So God led him and God held him. He did all of that. So God wasn't crippled because Jonah decided he's going to run off. God wasn't, handicapped because now Jonah's somewhere out in the sea. No, God's right there. He's right there. And so Jonah thinks he's going to run away, and that's not going to happen, friends. That's not going to happen. You'll never be in a place where God cannot hold you and lead you. You'll never be in a place where he's not there. He's always there. He's in heaven. He's in hell. He's in the remotest part of the sea. Just ask the prophet Jonah. Of course, all of this was to Jonah's benefit, all this was for the benefit of the Ninevites who repented and turned to God. But Jonah didn't seem to learn the lesson. Well, tomorrow we'll pick up with verses 11 and 12 and begin to look at this idea of God's ability to see. His sight is what is described here. So I hope you'll join me then as we look at those two verses tomorrow on Daily Dose Radio. Thanks for listening to Daily Dose Radio. I'm David Smith. The music today has been performed by the Bluegrass Experiment. Thanks again for listening. I'll see you next time on Daily Dose Radio.